Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our third webinar of the series of the B2B webinars that we've been running as Portal Tech Reply UK. Hope everyone is having a good morning. We're going to start right now. So the purpose of these webinars that we've set out to run was aimed at looking at the changing space of the B2B commerce, the kind of trends that we are seeing, the kind of feedback we're getting from our clients and the prospects that we're working with. And we wanted to share our insights. We wanted to share what we are seeing and happening. And we wanted to share some of our strategies, some of our advice that we would generally give to our clients in a series of these webinars, with the purpose of creating a community around it, starting a conversation on the topic, and looking at some of the really interesting and exciting things that are happening in the space. So for this webinar, we will be looking at the following topics. First, we'll touch a little bit on the introduction, on Portal Tech Reply, who are we? We'll go through this section really briefly. There is more in-depth presentation and run through it available in the first session that we've run. We will look a little bit at the topics that we have covered so far, and we will look at the topics that we are planning to cover today. Then we will move on to the actual topics of this webinar, and we will be looking more closely, as promised in the first webinar that we have held, topics of mobile commerce and what makes mobile commerce successful effort for a company. Then we will move on to the role of the marketplaces and how they can be intertwined with your digital strategy, how you could plug them in to your solution architecture landscape and your business strategy. And then we will wind up with a few slides on SAP Commerce Omnichannel Connect, and specifically the B2B APIs that have been developed for that business model by SAP, and that we believe are becoming more and more important in this changing space. We will finish the session hopefully within an hour with some questions and answers, and we will also share some contact details and webinar topic overview with you at the end of this hour. So let's proceed to the first section of introduction. Portal Tech is part of Reply Group. Reply Group is a living network of companies, so each company is narrowly specialized in its own knowledge area or vertical. We are over 1 billion in revenue and over 8,000 employees worldwide. In terms of SAP partnership, Reply is a gold level partner. And then Portal Tech Reply, if we zoom in on specifically what we do, our expertise lies within customer experience or SAP customer experience solution stack. And we are focusing on large scale and high performance implementations. We also do strategy and roadmaps, technological roadmaps in particular. And then in terms of tools and optimizations, we focus on contextualization, personalization, A/B testing, touch points optimization. And of course, from the engineering standpoint, we do system integration, which is the core of our business, performance tuning and data migration, to name a few key ones. When we were a standalone company, we were Hybris Platinum Partner, which was then elevated to Hybris Partner Platinum Elite, and we were the only company to hold that status at the time for quite a while. When Hybris brand got absorbed into SAP and we have joined Reply, over time we've maintained that status for a while, but currently we hold SAP Silver Partner status and working to get that back up to gold, perhaps potentially even higher. These are a few of our B2B implementations for your reference. You will have the slides after the session, so feel free to look at them closer at that time. As well, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you would like to speak to any of these, about any of these reference implementations. And of course, we don't only serve B2B market, we serve a wide variety of enterprises across the board. We've recently been quite prominent in travel space, but before that, we've also served other businesses. As you can see, B2C, B2B, it's a nice mix. And we have been a co-partner, co-development partner for the SAP Commerce Cloud Travel Accelerator with SAP. So it was actually a Portal Tech team that's been developing this extension. All right. Let's move on now to recap a little bit of what have been the topics that have been covered to date in this series of webinars, and what we will be looking at in the session today. So first of all, for the very first session that we ran on market forces at play, we looked at millennials, we looked at how the millennial generation coming into the market, the decisive positions, is driving two really important trends, which is mobile commerce and marketplaces. So in the previous technological ecosystem session, we have really looked at the customer side of things, and how to align sales and online channel, and how to manage customer data, sentiment, and experience. If you would like to review this session, it's available on LinkedIn, and or please reach out to me and I can send you a link to the recording and the deck. So today's session, we're going to look a little bit more at the technology side of things. Namely, we will dive deeper into mobile commerce and marketplaces. And then we will finish up, as you already know from the agenda, looking a little bit more into the API capability required to support both of these channels, and how this can be facilitated. So at this point, I'd like to move on to the next section of our presentation. So this is mobile commerce success factors. And we know from the session that we ran, the first session, we presented this information already, mobile commerce has experienced very rapid growth. There is a lot of potential in that market. There is a lot of engagement from mobile devices. And where there is engagement, there is opportunity to monetize these engagements and take them from just inquisitive searches to actual commerce. But let's look at what's important to enable that. So we've outlined three main factors that are really important for mobile commerce. So first of all, designing mobile first is really important. And then the juxtaposition of web application versus native app really takes a prominent point in this matter, and we will look into that more closely. The other one is, of course, feature parity. So feature parity is just as important in terms of enabling seamless omni-channel experience across different channels, and that implies the same capabilities, same functionalities on your desktop version of the website, as well as your web app, for example, or your native app. And last but not least is a B2B enabled API. So of course, the channels such as mobile application or a web app would be integrating to an API, the same as you would if you were to look at any kind of machine-to-machine integrations. That you think of, for example, solutions where a field engineer is walking around with a tablet that allows him to access parts and services that he needs to order to perform his work. And that application potentially could be developed by his employer or a contractor to his employer, but that application potentially could be integrating to a variety of commerce engines that are the suppliers of the engineering company that the engineer works for example. And so this is maybe already becoming a little bit of an example of a marketplace, and we'll dive into that again a little later in this session. But important to know, this is an important factor. So let's now zoom in a little bit on the two options at hand when we're talking about mobile commerce. Namely, this is the native app or web app. So there are two main pathways. Each of them has some pros and cons. And I would like to take a little bit of time right now to actually discuss these pros and cons with you. So first thing that people think about mobile commerce is actually a native app. And that's how we kind of came into thinking about it natively, because apps, as you know, since iPhone first came out, apps really have revolutionized the commerce world and revolutionized the mobile industry altogether. And so when we think about mobile commerce, we think mobile device, and then immediately we think a mobile app. So mobile apps have certain set of really strong pros. So first of all, if you develop an app, you really can think about everything. You can make sure that your user interface is usable, that it is feature rich, that you really replicate everything that could be done on a website, could be also done on a mobile app. This is particularly important for the B2B context, because B2B shopping process tends to be a bit more layered, a little bit more, let's say, complex and with its own intricacies compared to B2C, where you have quite straightforward set of products. In B2B contexts, you have the added complexity of multidimensional data related to various products. You could be asking for customizations, you could be asking for quote, you could be negotiating prices and getting additional discounts, the pricing is customized and so on. So feature richness in the context of a B2B app is particularly important. And I think we could also take an example of Alibaba app, which is particularly well tuned towards B2B market, and they really have taken their time and invested clearly quite well into development of that app. If you're interested, please have a look at that particular case, as we believe it's quite a strong example in this context. Another trait or characteristic of a mobile app is that it tends to perform well, better than the web app. And that is for the reason that you can upload more assets to a native app. It can actually store a lot of the graphics, a lot of the data on the device. So act as if preloaded or as if cached that you kept data, which of course enables faster performance. And last but not least, it's really important that this application works across devices. And when you develop a native app, you of course benefit from the native app development frameworks for iOS and Android and a couple of other platforms that allow you to extensively test your application on a wide variety of screen resolutions. This enables you to make sure that this app is functional, that it is usable, and that it is working smoothly across a wide range of devices. And this, of course, in the modern day of explosion of choice for a variety of devices, mobile devices, you would like to make sure that your app works best in all of them. However, there are some downsides, as any fundamental and quite systemic approach to this matter. There are some costs, and there is some time factor attached to implementing a mobile app. So you probably are looking at least 9 months of development to maybe 12 months for a very extensive app. Something easier and smaller potentially sooner, but nonetheless, these are sort of the time frames, excuse me, that you would be looking at. And the other factor that some people voice is, of course, the user uptake. So the statistics is that an application, a native app, could lose up to 85% of its users within few days after its installation. And I believe, and personally, I feel that if that is the case for the app, then I think there are some really substantial grounds for the developer to rethink how they have designed the app. Because if app is really proving itself useful, or if it provides the features, the right feature to the users, or it makes users' life easier, so to say, then you will see repeat use. And also, you need to bear in mind that some people install applications because they feel they need it, but maybe they actually don't have that urgent need or that daily need. Example in case is IKEA application. If you install IKEA application, how often do you actually use it? You know, maybe if you are just moved and you need new furniture in your house, then you might be using it more often. But last time I checked, my IKEA application had offloaded itself actually from my mobile phone, and I just have a link in there, and that happened automatically. So next time I use it, maybe, I don't know, in a year's time. So there are different factors to consider there. And you certainly should be asking yourself, well, what is the frequency of ordering for my customers? How frequently will they use this application? A good thing to do would be to also think about and gather a little bit more statistics. If you already have a running B2B website and you do have some kind of statistics, some kind of data that you collect, behavioral data that you collect from your website, that tells you which parts of the funnel are most used, or which capabilities on your B2B website are most used. Let's say repeat ordering, for example. Maybe your customers are particularly inclined to repeat order because they need the same kind of products and in the same quantities and the same features over and over again. So perhaps things like that, you know, maybe you are, or maybe your business tends to fluctuate in terms of prices, and there's more of an aspect coming in of negotiating prices, negotiating quotes that is really used frequently, or maybe from your website, the funnel gets handed over or the journey gets handed over to your sales team quite often. So maybe you want to implement such capability in your mobile app, for example. Quite a few apps today offer possibility to get assistance from within the app, and with a phone number directly attached, or a special link to the chat that already pre-authorizes you, pre-identifies you. And so the customer service rep or sales rep that you get through already knows who you are when you start talking to them. So native app offers lots of flexibility, offers possibility to assure quality of its operation and performance, quite fundamental systemic approach to this question, but also comes at certain cost and will probably require some of your patience. So now let's look at the web app. The web app is kind of offering what native app is not so good at. So a mobile app could potentially be just a responsive storefront of your existing commerce engine, and you could potentially use your existing CMS to develop a mobile storefront with technologies like React or Angular. You could relatively easily do that if you already have one storefront. However, more and more advocates say that it actually, if you are intending to do mobile commerce along the lines of e-commerce, then it is always better to start with mobile and then extend to desktop, rather than another way around. Or if you already do have a desktop version of your website, of your storefront, you potentially want to think about developing mobile separately from scratch. and just using the same assets or transfer your branding from your desktop version to mobile rather than rewriting the code. So of course, cost to develop, time to develop, and another benefit is touchpoint consolidation. So if, let's say, you're building your mobile web app on the same CMS as your desktop storefront, obviously you can reuse all of the API integrations and all the functionality that is already available for desktop. Or if you're doing both at the same time, the same happens. You have economies of scale of having effectively two storefronts using the same backend integration. However, there are some considerations to be made when thinking about a web app. Well, one is, of course, performance. There is some statistics that says that mobile websites that are loading in a period of over 7 seconds tend to lose our attention. And the slow performant websites, or websites that fail to load images within reasonable response time, tend to actually see quite a bit of churn of their visitors and decreased conversions. So performance is directly correlated with the attention span that you get from the customer when they visit. But not only that, it also directly correlates with the conversion rates. So the sites that perform better tend to have high conversion rates than the sites that perform worse. In this context, of course, if you think about a web app, you need to understand that every time you load a web app, all of the assets of that web app would have to be loaded, or largely a lot of them would have to be loaded because there isn't a lot of caching happening on your mobile device. Another point to consider is cross-device compatibility. So something that native apps are really good at. As I mentioned, a possibility to test the native app across a wide variety of screens in a virtualized environment of the native app development framework is an invaluable feature that a web app will not benefit from, unfortunately. So that implies that the more rigorous testing need to be carried out once your web app is complete, and the wider is the range of devices available to you, the more assurance you have that your web app will provide optimal experience to a wide range of customers. Last but not least, of course, feature parity. Again, something that native apps are particularly good at. Feature parity might be tricky to implement on a web interface. If you have to deal with a really wide variety of resolutions and you're building for iPad and mobile at the same time, for example, it will take a little bit of thinking, it will take a little bit of expertise and the right talent to implement feature parity and to make sure that all of the features that are available on your B2B desktop storefront are also available on the mobile web app. So, you know, I'm sure there are quite a few questions that could be around this area. I would like to mention at this point in time that Portal Tech Reply, we are really focusing on e-commerce engines and well, commerce engines, I should say, because it becomes neutral right now. But within Reply, we do have very strong mobile development expertise. And actually, it's more than one company. For the sake of this session, I would just like to mention OpenReply. OpenReply are really narrowly specialized in mobile app development, and they provide services around conceptualization, user experience design, mobile development, API and backend services, and they would also be able to support you with mobile analytics and optimization services for your app. So in case you are considering a mobile application, be that a native app or web app, we most certainly could have a conversation with the three of us, with everybody on the table, and discuss your options, discuss your desires in your business goals, and recommend the best solution in a stack of solutions that would suit your needs. On this, I would like to close this part of the webinar on the mobile commerce. I hope you found it insightful. And I would like to move on now to the marketplaces and their roles in a digital strategy of a B2B operator. So let's just quickly recap from the first session on the market forces that we ran. We've outlined that the reason that marketplaces have come into existence and taking more and more prominence in our commerce landscape is because they allow three key features. They allow us to shop around for a good deal and compare prices across different providers. They are offering us the ability to write reviews or review other people's reviews on products and services. So it helps us to gauge better the quality of the product or the service that we're about to buy. And last but not least, it also allows us to evaluate different delivery options. And for different products and services, delivery options could be different. It could be, you know, we could think about anything from digital to really physical and, you know, really logistics chains and distribution centers and so on and so forth. And so marketplaces offer us this great opportunity to really understand and compare different delivery options, because the product could be great, but if delivery is poor, obviously the result is well understood for everyone. We've also discussed in the first session that there are three types of marketplaces that we would distinguish. One is the public marketplaces, where everyone is welcome to trade as long as they are a legitimate business that can register and provide accurate credentials of their registration. And further, the market really takes over, and reviews and ratings from your customers largely then define your credibility. The second type that we would outline is the semi-private networks. Semi-private networks are such networks like SAP Ariba, where players are pre-vetted, so to say. So both providers and consumers actually go through a certain process of registration where their credentials are being verified and the quality of their services as well as their reliability is being tested to an extent. And last but not least is the private, so-called private marketplace. These are usually found within large organizations that have the manpower to set up their own internal marketplace, where they pre-vet or pre-select the vendors that they would like to offer their products and services within the organization to a diverse range of business units. As you know, such large organizations tend to have certain standards of operation, tend to have certain set of compliances that they have to adhere to, and they also want to benefit from the economies of scale of centralizing their procurement. And those are the reasons such an internal marketplace could exist. So let's turn a little bit, let's zoom in a little bit on the public and semi-private marketplaces and how your commerce engine could be interacting with those. So first of all, let's assume that there is out there a marketplace. A case in point could be Amazon or it could be Alibaba, let's say, right? So it already exists. And let's say you already have a commerce engine that is providing B2B or B2C or combination of both of your products and services offerings to the customer. So what you would do in this case is you would actually look to integrate to the existing marketplace through an API that would allow you to do the following. It would allow you to provide product content and pricing to the marketplace. Typically, marketplaces would handle their basket themselves. However, once once the shopping process is complete on the side of the marketplace, you would like the possibility to accept orders and also accept amends and cancellations for the same orders. And also you would want to receive customer and delivery data to be able to fulfill an order. This is typically how actually Amazon works. So I would say mid-range to larger operators that are part of Amazon would actually look to integrate seamlessly. There are solutions for certain marketplaces that offer, let's say, a mobile app. So, for example, SAP Ariba offers an app within which you could see your orders, you could check fulfillment, update status of your order, and so forth. So there are different ways. There is, for smaller players, usually marketplaces offer tools like sellers back office or sellers cockpits, to say. And then for larger players, we definitely move direction of an API integration. And then we are left with the last option for marketplaces, which is a private marketplace. So this is a setup where Commerce Engine actually plays the role of the marketplace, and it is a solution that instead of being oriented externally to customers and consumers, it is actually the customers are within the organization. So it is, so to say, inward facing. It is a sourcing Commerce Engine. In this setup, you actually would see procurement working with a range of pre-approved vendors that also have their products and services standard tested and sampled and approved for distribution within the organization. And on the other hand side, you would have the internal business units that are able to purchase from this marketplace. Of course, in the context of, this is a very strong B2B use case. And also in this case, it is possible to do all of the B2B capabilities, such as multidimensional product data or quote negotiation or product customizations and so on. And of course, probably many of you will ask how this is supported by SAP Commerce Cloud. This is the point where, because of course there are intricacies to the marketplace as to how it is being supported. You might have the same product from more than one supplier, and you can have more than one price for each product, not necessarily hosted or nested under a price list per se. And so there are these intricacies around running a marketplace, and the tool that we always recommend is actually an extension to SAP Commerce, and it's called Miracle. They work across a wide variety of brands. As you can see, they work with the names like Best Buy and Galeria Lafayette and Toyota. This company had developed a marketplace extension to SAP Commerce Cloud that in conjunction could drive a marketplace capability on the basis of SAP Commerce. And in general, they are able to support B2B capability, B2C capability, services, as well as partner management, procurement, and so on. Really important aspect to mention here is a big factor of success for a marketplace is actually the ease of onboarding. Because the easier it is for you to bring the sellers to the market, the wider is the range of options that you have available to your end consumers. And so the consumer will naturally gravitate towards a marketplace that has the widest choice of product, because if we remember, one of the key benefits of a marketplace is being able to shop around for a deal. So the wider is the set of offerings for the same product, the stronger marketplace is then perceived by the customer, and the more fruitful you would actually see in that context. So one thing is enabling this technologically, but another thing is not just the customer front-end experience is the one you want to be looking at, which is something that we've covered in previous sessions. But the other side then becomes also relevant, the partner experience and the ease of use for the partner to offer their products and services in the marketplace is then coming into picture, and that's something that you as a business who wants to set up a marketplace becomes very, very relevant. Now that we have covered these two key topics, I would like to move on to the third and last content section of our webinar. And that is related to the enablement of these capabilities. And the key solution in enablement of these capabilities, both for marketplace integration or marketplace enablement, as well as mobile commerce, and other channels, other distribution channels that you might consider. It all, of course, turns around an API capability of your commerce engine. So this is actually where SAP had been also heavily investing over the course of the last few years, because there are some very clear benefits from it. So first of all, a good API capability allows you to expose your commerce engine or expose services within your commerce engine, even so to say, to a wide variety of touch points. So that gives you infinite flexibility in terms of what you would like to implement and the kind of innovation that you could drive. Also, with the general trend towards microservices in solution architecture design over the course of last decade or so, it is clear that the platforms need to start providing their different parts of their capability, not as monolith, but as a broken down aggregation of services, microservices. And so API plays really important role in that. And actually, SAP Commerce and SAP have been seeing this trend and have been taking it very seriously. And so more and more you will see that different parts of SAP Commerce actually are available as a microservice from the platform through an API. And in the future, you would also be able to see it broken down into subsections such as offer management, segregated from order management, segregated from customer management, and so on. And you will see that there will be a capability to scale those up or down based on the need or based on the type of traffic that you see to your commerce engine. You would be able to see these components separated and being able to run on also separate infrastructures. And of course, this not last but not least, but agility and shortened migration cycles and easier upgrade path are also associated with API-based architecture. So that's also something to consider when you think about these. Now, in terms of what is currently supported, this is the capability map of what had been supported to date by OCC out of the box. And this covers, I would say, 80% or 70 to 80% of the general platform capability. Of course, some of it is left to customization because every project is different, and you don't want to prescribe be over prescriptive in this area. So, but large chunk of the implementation is already there, available out of the box. So all of the steps that are listed on these slides can be performed through an API, and including two B2B specific areas, which are very specific to B2B, so multidimensional product data and accessing organizational data that already had been supported by OCC previously. And I would like to now highlight a few points on the latest release. So interestingly enough, the very recent release 2020-05, which is May this year, very recent, had been heavily focused on the API integration. So one big addition to this had been B2B organization management, ability to create and manage business units, update user data, update cost centers, purchase limits, enablement for the shopping flow and approval of budgets. It is all now available through API, as well as some improvements, to name a few, around ordering, so order replenishment, reorder, automated ordering, and recreation of an existing order with one API call. So these are some significant implementations, significant improvements and evolutions of previous capability that are now available that really make it a fully fledged B2B API-centric solution. As well as a nice nugget that B2B or B2B and B2C APIs can now run side by side. That previously was not possible, but it is now. So you have now separation of endpoints, which allow you to run your two lines of business side by side from the same commerce engine, and that of course simplifies your implementation and simplifies your solution and architectural landscape. So quite exciting points coming out of the latest release 2005, which is 2020-05, which is May 2020. Some really big advancements and more to come on the roadmap. So we believe in this context, SAP Commerce is really supporting the trends that we see in the market, and is really well positioned to tackle typical B2B challenges posed by the type of business that it is and the specifics of it. And we believe that bringing the right players to the table, such as a mobile development specialist or a marketplace platform specialist, is really important. And the thinking along the lines of every business that wants to achieve their goals and want to deliver a best-in-class B2B capability or for today, for coming years. So thank you very much for listening. This brings us to the conclusion of our content sections of the webinar, and I would like to now take us to the questions and answers. If you have any questions, it would be great to hear, and I'll do my best to answer them. So please, if you do have them, please post them in the chat. I'll read them out and try to answer them. Right, so we got a question from Kevin. What ERP integrations are native in SAP Commerce B2B? Right, I think this is that's a good question. I think there's quite a list. Obviously, SAP Commerce comes pre-integrated with SAP ERP or SAP S/4HANA. So you can think about any kind of integration. So in terms of stock management, in terms of resources that are available, I think it's a relatively big question to be covered in one go in this session. But if you would like to explore this further, we can certainly set up a call and we could talk on the topic. Yes, and we could also share some information with you. If you would like to share your email with us, then we could follow up on this. But I think, you know, a commerce and an ERP integration, it's a big piece of work. usually. However, SAP Commerce comes pre-integrated with S/4HANA, but there are certain nuances which make it not easy or straightforward question to answer quickly. So, all right. So, Kevin, if you want to share your contact details, if you would like to reach out to me on LinkedIn, then we can definitely continue this conversation offline. Any other questions related to mobile commerce or marketplaces or API integration? All right. It seems that it's been pretty clear, hopefully. Thank you very much. Everyone who are, oh, we got some more. We are a B2B business and we are looking to expand. Mobile first step we should consider. Right. Of course. So you're a B2B business and you're looking to expand. Is a mobile first step we should consider? Kevin, yes, definitely. So what we kind of been talking about over the course of the last couple of sessions is that mobile is definitely showing quite a momentum on the market. The expectation is that the mobile commerce is going to overshoot B2C commerce in terms of the volumes of ordering once technology sort of catches up and once there is wider adoption of mobile commerce in the B2B businesses. I think we can think of B2B businesses as generally more conservative or typically following a number of manual processes, but I think that is relatively quickly being pushed out by the new technologies that come into play. And so, of course, if you're a young, growing B2B business, you definitely want to be thinking about mobile-first strategy, especially if you don't have any kind of legacy solutions in place already today that are limiting you in any respect. Then definitely the two options that we talked about, the more native mobile app and the web app, these are the two things you want to be thinking about first. Subject to what kind of business it is, there might be one or the other option might be more relevant. However, you definitely want to drive your strategy from that if you're starting carte blanche. All right, thank you. So, are there any other questions from anyone else? I'll give it a couple of minutes just for anyone to let it sink in and reflect on the material. All right. All right. Well, thank you very much for everybody for your time. I guess we'll wrap this session up. In the deck, you will find our contact details. So you'll find a link to our Portal Tech Reply homepage, as well as there are 3 direct contacts of my colleagues and myself. That's myself on the right-hand side there. Please don't hesitate to reach out for any kind of questions. If you would like to develop any of these topics, we will be more than happy to talk to you. Also, in this deck, you will find the list of our webinars that is now being planned out and confirmed till end of September. These are all the topics that we will be covering. Mind you, next webinars will be oriented at SAP Commerce Cloud, and in particular for cases where you might have an on-premise implementation that you would like to upgrade and migrate to the cloud. So first we will be looking a little bit more into the product evolution and advantages of doing so. And the second webinar will be looking at a reference implementation that we have just delivered for everything £5. They have just successfully upgraded and migrated to the cloud and gone live in May. So that would actually be a very interesting panel where we would have some representative of SAP, ourselves, and everything £5 journey. And later end of summer and beginning of autumn, we'll be looking further at the B2B commerce, and we'll be talking a bit more about delivery best practices, functional and implementation best practices, and we will finalize a session of these B2B webinars with SAP Commerce B2B demo, and we could talk a little bit more about implementation timelines, typical cost, approaches of out-of-the-box oriented versus customizations, and so on. So please join us on any of these following webinars. We'd be very happy to see you. And the materials, recording of this webinar and the slides will be available in a couple of days' time. So please watch this space on LinkedIn, and we will follow up with you and the links shortly. So again, thank you everyone for joining today and for spending your time with us. It's been great to see you guys joining, and we're looking forward to seeing you at our future webinars. Thank you very much. Goodbye.